COVID-19 crisis is already 9 months, and we don't see the support from the government. In Thailand, we have a great fear of COVID. In Thailand, we have a greater fear of COVID than Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Taiwan, and China. So there's no reason for us to have such a fear. But I think it's time to help business to operate safely. We don't want to risk a second wave or something in Thailand, but we must help people from starving, from unemployment, from suicide. Today, we have more suicides than COVID deaths.
Thank you so much, Mr. Heinecke, for your time to share your experience and also the business insight with us. So before we start, would you please provide us more detail about the current situation and how do you handle the crisis?
The crisis is certainly one of the most challenging ones we faced, much worse than the Tam Yam Kung crisis of 1997. And we've really faced it by trying to slash costs, try to conserve cash, and try to pivot towards the local market, which is necessary with the lockdown that we currently see in Thailand.
So many people talking about the second wave. How do you think about the reopening of our country will be, and what is the advice for the Thai government?
I think we must accept that we must reopen as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible. Today, from our experience in other countries, if you have a test before you leave and you're negative before you get on the plane, and you have a second test when you arrive and you're negative, 99% it's already solved. It's better than leaving people with loose borders like Burma and fishing boats that come in and out. I can tell you that we're already very unsafe. That in letting in travelers, international travelers that follow the protocol will be very much safer than the current way we're running the country. And it will help to open up the economy. So I hope the government will see this quickly and realize that if we don't, we are not going to die from COVID. We're going to die from the terrible economic situation we face. Bloomberg's latest study shows Thailand as 15th of the ranking of various countries. So that's a very poor response when we think we're so good. But when you balance COVID with that, Japan, Taiwan, many other countries are doing better than Thailand, Singapore included. And they all rank ahead of Thailand.
So how about the entrepreneur? How about the advice and what they need to prepare to handle this recession?
I think my advice to any entrepreneur is don't run out of cash. Make sure you have enough cash. The situation, the way the government is currently handling it, is taking too long, and I would not expect our borders will open before the first quarter. So that means that we have to face another 3 months into the new year, which is very serious. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm not, then everyone should be very careful to conserve cash.
So do you think that we can recover somewhere like 2022 or like longer than that?
Once we open up and once we have a vaccine, recovery will be very quick. But the amount of damage we are doing today is what's going to be difficult to recover from. Once we open up and tourists come, we can recover quickly. But as long as we stay closed, the difficulty is with us.
I see. So actually, like before the COVID-19, there was digital disruption. So from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing from this disruption, and how do you overcome that? How do you deal with that?
Well, you could probably see we have put a lot of emphasis on our delivery and our digital delivery programs. We pivoted very quickly from dine-in, which suffered with the lockdown, to delivery, which blossomed during this period. So our food group has done extremely well. We've tried to use all of the various things such as Zoom and all of the other business tools which are available to us. And generally we've done that very well. We work from home. But actually in our business, working from home isn't really feasible because we operate restaurants, hotels. And so it's sad for me when even we still have people that are working from home, and yet we live in a very safe country. Even we have demonstrations of thousands of people, and because we're a relatively safe COVID country.
And last but not least, what change should we make to Thailand economic system in order to prepare the complete transformation of the world after the COVID-19?
I think the government must recognize that they have to support business. Right now, there's very little support. We see good support in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, UK, Spain, Italy, but nothing in Thailand. As usual, the Thai government is very slow to provide assistance to the large companies. This is the same whether it be for airlines, hotel industry. We employ a lot of people, but even Social Security was only there for 3 months. So it's too short. The COVID-19 crisis is already 9 months, and we don't see the support from the government. So to me, I always recommend to the government, try to follow the programs and platforms of our neighbors, Singapore, Australia, because they have already, Hong Kong, many of these countries, they already face this battle and they're supporting. And the lesson is there. We only have to look. The Thai government must only observe what is being done in Singapore, what's being done in Hong Kong, and then give that same support here, and it will be welcomed by every business person.
What about the like a travel bubble between maybe Singapore, Thailand, Thailand
We hope
with
that
Hong
they
Kong?
will explore a travel bubble because places like Taiwan are even safer than Thailand. We need China back. China is very safe, but right now they also haven't started sending tourists abroad. So I hope that when they do, Thailand will be the first to receive them. Because China is very safe, very careful, and has already advanced with their vaccine and already vaccinating people. So they're much more advanced and safer, I believe, than even Thailand. And to me, it's disappointing. We have essential workers cannot come to Thailand. If you do come to Thailand, you're like a prisoner. You have to go into quarantine. When you're in quarantine, you can't smoke a cigarette unless you go outside. If you don't have a balcony, you can't go for 30 days or 15 days. You can't drink. It's very difficult. And if you have an engineer, if we need an engineer from China right now, he has to come quarantine for 14 days, do 2 days work, and go back, quarantine another 14 days. So he has to quarantine nearly 30 days to do 2 days of work. In Singapore, they've already overcome that. They will allow a temporary for essential workers. The company must guarantee them. The company must ban them. The company must do all those things. But in Thailand, they don't make it possible. Unfortunately, in Thailand, we have a great fear of COVID. In Thailand, we have a greater fear of COVID than Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Taiwan, and China. So there's no reason for us to have such a fear. Perhaps it's helped Thailand. The government has declared a state of emergency. But I think it's time to help business to operate safely. We don't want to risk a second wave or something in Thailand, but we must help people from starving, from unemployment, from suicide. Today we have more suicides than COVID deaths. People are frustrated. They have nothing to do, So just because we have a lot of automobile accidents, we don't stop automobiles. We don't stop motorcycles. We have to learn to live with a motorcycle, even though it causes death. Or we have to learn to live with influenza. It also causes death. We have to learn to live with malaria, typhoid. They also cause death, more deaths than COVID. And we learn to live with it. But with COVID, we're so afraid we don't want to live with it. So this is wrong, in my opinion.
So we can learn from the history and try to apply it with our lives.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Heinecke. Your advice is very informative, practical, and also inspire our audience. So we look forward to have you back again in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mimi.
ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you so much ขอบคุณค่ะ